Hi, I'm Lisa, and I love travel, and I have ADHD, and possibly some other neurodivergent conditions that are yet to be confirmed. I have been traveling now for at least 25 years on my own. I feel like I've learned a lot in that time, and it'd be great to share with you why I think cruises are great for people who are neurodivergent. If you're worried that it's going to be too much, I have lots of good things to say about cruises because there's lots of areas where they are predictable and manageable. And at the same time, there is places where you're going to experience that variety. So let's break it down. One of the best things about cruising is that your accommodation moves around, but you get to stay in the same place. So you only have to worry about unpacking once. You only have to figure out the shower once. And the other great thing is that there's ample storage in cruise ship cabins. So there's always been plenty of cabinets, and the beds are designed so your suitcase can slide right under. And so I'd even say don't even feel pressure to travel minimally. There are people that show up with multiple suitcases because they're bringing clothing for formal nights and lots of time by the pool. Bring as many shoes as you like, and you can bring your favorite snacks and drinks that are non-alcoholic. I've never had a bad bed, and the sheets are really soft. Another thing that's really predictable about cruise ships is the safety, and especially if you're a woman traveling alone. There's no reason why you have to worry about getting back to your room at night. The corridors are always very well lit, and there's cameras everywhere. So yeah, I kind of come and go to your room anytime. Depending on the size of the ship, you're never more than 5 to 10 minutes away from your room. So it's a pretty convenient setup. Another thing I love about cruising is there's less decision fatigue. Every day is a new set of scheduled events, and yes, they will let you know in advance if there's like a special theme night. The daily events can be anything from fitness classes to trivia. We know that there's going to be like in the evening comedy or theater, music. Another area you won't have too much decision fatigue is eating. On most cruise ships, there's multiple restaurants to choose from, multiple cafes, coffee shops. These places are open pretty much any time, apart from maybe midnight to 7 a.m. I'd say the food is fairly consistent. So the cruise ships I've been on, there's always been a buffet. And on that buffet, there will be items that are the same every day. Other items rotate out. I know of an instance where somebody in the main dining room asked for something that wasn't there on the menu, and they were actually able to track it down. Yeah, I think in terms of like finding food, it should be pretty good. The main dining room menus themselves do change daily, but there's plenty of choices to choose from. Yeah, you can always look to see what is on the menu in the main dining room and then choose to eat somewhere else instead if you don't fancy anything on the menu. Another thing about the cruise ships is that the customer service is generally excellent. So the staff will go out of their way. I mean, they are hoping that in the post-cruise survey that you mention them by name. So that does help them in their career. And if you're prone to losing things like my ADHD people are, there's a lost and found. And I swear on my last cruise, which is 18 days, I lost 3 items and all 3 turned up at lost and found. So happy days. I'm really happy about that. In case you were too worried about things being too predictable, let's talk about instances where you'll have variety. Cruise cabins are consistent among the types typically on the ship. So when you're booking, you'll get to, pick a room type. And what's cool about the cruise ships is that the cabins range from sometimes a single solo cabin all the way up to suites. So obviously there's a cost consideration here. You also get to choose your deck location. So depending on what you want and what you need, the decks are handy to know. I'm going to insert the link of some websites you can look at the deck plans, because maybe you want to be closer to the pool, or maybe you want to be as far away from the pool as possible. Some people choose a room location and deck level depending on their sensitivity to motion. Yeah, there's lots to consider, and that's a whole other separate video. Personally, I like the motion. It kind of rocks you to sleep. I quite like being near a staircase, but maybe you want to be closer to an elevator. So that's why it's worth looking at the deck plans when you're choosing your room. And then there's the itinerary itself. Some cruises stop in a new port every day, and I have to say that's pretty exhausting. Other cruises have a lot of sea days, which is really nice and chilled out. I think cruises that do a bit of both are really, really nice. It feels like there's a lot of pressure, the FOMO of like you're in a new port, a new country even, and you feel like you need to get out and explore. And it can be overstimulating and a little bit tiring at times, especially if you're trying to get off the ship at the same time as everybody else. There are sometimes ways to mitigate that, but it's going to depend on the cruise line. The onboard activities, they are, well, while sometimes there's the same things over and over again. For example, when I was cruising the last time, there was always a 7 p.m. solo cruiser get together in a wine bar. Nice and predictable, but at the same time, the evening entertainment changed every single night. They're like a murder mystery thing, and that was only on, I think, 2 of the 18 nights. So you kind of do need to pay attention to the activities. I brought cards with me. I couldn't find anybody to play, but next time I will. When you're in the port, you have choices. I'd say it's worth figuring this out ahead of time. But when you're in a port, if you've pre-booked an activity with the cruise line itself, that's awesome. They tend to be priced higher, but it does mean that you can kind of relax and rest easy knowing that they guarantee that you get back on the ship. A lot of people, almost always, there will be people holding up a sign, here's possibly more experienced cruisers prefer to walk off the ship and just see what activities and tours are being offered. Do a little day tour and they'll get you back in time. And I'm sure in most cases they do get you back in time. Yeah, or you can just choose to explore yourself. On one of my last cruises, they had people that were offering like a shuttle to the town, and it was like, I don't know, like $5 or something. And it was great. In fact, I remember the lady was very like, just wait in the van, the air conditioning's on. So yeah, I just sat there and it was chilled out, and yeah, it was nice. The tour that I did, organized through the cruise company, was phenomenal. So they had us on speedboats. We had a picnic on a little island, a little private island, and then whisked off to another little island and got to see a vanilla plantation. And then they took us back again. And so, yeah, I mean, that would be, well, probably impossible to do by yourself. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to just like find someone to hire you a speedboat. Okay, let's just talk about sensory overload for a minute because it's something that affects me. So the first thing I want to say is, number one, make sure you get a room that you're going to be happy to be chilling out in. So for me, I need enough floor space that I can stretch out a yoga mat or a towel and like do some stretching and that type of thing. You'll almost always have a double bed even if you're by yourself. But some of the specifically solo rooms, I think they're a single bed. So I would be really concerned what the floor space is like. If you have the money, get a bigger cabin, no problem. I guess as well, like if you're going to share with someone, make sure you're sharing with someone that you're happy to be cooped up with. At the very, very worst case scenario, if one or both of you got sick, you will be there. With the daily schedule, just ignore your FOMO. Yeah, you might just need a day where you just keep a really low profile. If you like hot drinks in the morning, the cabin attendant can bring you an electric kettle, and you can make tea or coffee. I actually have like a folding mesh coffee filter, and so I would do that in the morning rather than buffet for that type of thing. I would just get my coffee sorted out in the morning by myself, and then when I was ready, then I would go to the buffet for breakfast. Your exposure to the evening venues, it's a fact that drunk people are louder. The music was loud. I would say each time I've been, I couldn't really even be in the theater for any live music event. It was just too much for me. Even with loop earplugs in, especially because it's just, there's so many people around. It wasn't for me. I love the comedy. That was always good. Some of the bars are kind of quiet. I really enjoyed going to the Solarium bar. It's on Royal Caribbean. It's an adult-only area of the ship. It's enclosed. There's hot tubs. There's deck chairs. And in the daytime, it was calm, but it was really, really busy. And then in the evening, there was nothing going on in there. So, you could literally like take a beer, pull up a deck chair, and just, it felt very, very calm and peaceful. Other areas of the ship that can be kind of quiet at night are some of the walking decks. I don't have a lot of spa experience. I think it can be calm. The only time I remember like sitting in the waiting room, it was kind of chaos because they were doing free demonstrations, but really they're trying to sell you things. And then when I had my massage at the end, the lady was also trying to sell me more things. So I don't think it's a very particularly relaxing experience. I guess the other thing to do to manage your sensory overload, skip a port. Many people do decide just to stay on the ship. They don't get off at every port because the ship is, maybe the ship's really quiet, or they just get off and have a little wander around, but then they come straight back on. When we stopped in St. Lucia, all I did was get off and wander around the port area. But I'd also previously been to like 6 other islands, so I will have to go back, I'm afraid. Everyone told me that my first YouTube video would be pretty terrible, so would love to know your thoughts. Please leave a comment, especially if you're neurodivergent and you've done a cruise. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll be publishing more content about being neurodivergent and traveling. See you soon.